Hello, hello. It's Andryanna. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking through, tapping play, and spending some time with me and my guest for this episode of the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm so thrilled to share this episode because I think it's going to help you just expand and feel more joy and feel more love in your everyday life. Because I know that as a busy person, it can be challenging to be present and to be in the moment and to find time to just be. And so oftentimes we are wondering, how can we pay attention and how can we open ourselves up and be curious and allow ourselves to be playful and tap into our passions and what really sparks joy for us. And this guest is really here to support us in that. Today, we're talking about how feeding our creative side can elevate our moods, can help us with our problem solving, and really support us with our self love and our self care. My guest today is Nancy Macdonald, who is the artist, entrepreneur, author, and owner of Art Studio for Children. Although it's not just for children, I will say. Art Studio for Children was born both out of a need to find a wonderful place for her daughters to explore their talents, as well as her own desire to share her own passions for creativity. And now she has more than 7,000 families in the Toronto area, in Collingwood, in Muskoka, and beyond in Ontario who are tapping into the creative side through this studio. It is her vehicle for passion, to share her values and her desire to create a better world. And as she likes to say, to make beauty out of all of this mess. Today, we're talking about how to live more artfully, how we can use creativity as a tipping point for life, how we can create a joyful and more purposeful pursuit in business, in entrepreneurship, and in our careers, and how we can support our children with their creativity and their creative side as well. This is a beautiful conversation that I got so much from, and I can't wait to share it with you. Let's dive right in. Hey, I'm Andryanna, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. As I share my ongoing journey from experiencing burnout to leading a more mindful and intentional life with better balance, I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started. Before we get into today's episode, may I remind you that Mother's Day is coming, and I have just the thing that you and all the busy women in your life need. It's the Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner, your solution to reclaiming me time amidst life's chaos. Join countless others in prioritizing your well-being with this comprehensive planner. Make every day count with 30-day plans to prioritize self-love and purpose within 5 pillars. Complete with daily self-care commitments, intentional goal setting, and gratitude prompts, you'll reclaim control over your life with more joy and fun amidst the chaos. It's the ultimate tool to gain more ease, lose the stress, and tap into genuine self-care to support you through it all. And honestly, it's the perfect idea for Mother's Day. I invite you to pick it up for yourself and gift this planner to all the busy women in your life because you all deserve this level of care for yourselves. Don't wait, order now on Amazon and start making every day a win. You are so worthy of the care you invest in yourself, and your friends are too. The juggle is real, but so is the peace that comes from prioritizing self-care, allowing you to tackle life's challenges with grace and energy. The Juggle is Real Authentic Self-Care Planner is available on Amazon now, and there is a link in the notes for this podcast episode. Pick it up today. Now let's get back to the show.
Good morning, Andryanna. I am so excited to be on The Juggle is Real. How can we not all relate to that? My goodness. Such a perfect title and such a perfect podcast with you today. And I'm just thrilled to share my love of life and of art with all of your listeners, and my journey in how I got to this place, having had the great good pleasure of leading more than 7,000 beginners of all ages through transformative art experiences to create the wall-worthy art of their dreams.
That's so beautiful, Nancy. And I'm so excited to get into this conversation because I think as people who have full lives and we've got a lot on our to-do list and there's so much on the go, one area that we can often keep to the end of the list or maybe not even get to is feeding our creative side and tapping into that area, that zone that really feeds us and provides us with that zest for life. And I know how your work and what you do really helps us feed our creative side, which has so many benefits. So before we begin, I would love to know just a little bit more about you from a personal perspective. We know that you are helping others and supporting others through your passions and through your love, and how that has really expanded. But how did you begin? How did this journey start? Was it from an early age you loved to paint and that evolved, or was it something that you went to school for and received accreditation on, and now you're teaching others? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've gotten to this place in supporting others with their creative spirits.
Oh, I love your question so much because, like you, I took a personal experience and answered the question of our own need in our family and my own personal need, and built a business around that. And that's what female entrepreneurs do. And maybe in particular, mothers who are female entrepreneurs. We answer a question, a need, a void in our own personal experience, with a business, actually, a passion that is close to our heart and close to our need. So, back in 2002, one of my children was expressing a very high interest in art, and I was trying to find an art school, and there was nothing that really fit the bill in terms of convenience and fitting into our schedule and location. So at that time, my littlest said to me, Mama, you could build an art school here. We could teach art here. We could work together here, basically, in effect. And uh, we started with 6 children around the dining room table. And since that time, I've worked with thousands of families, people of all ages. And it has been a great gift in my life to not only find something that answered her need and have her be both seen and heard, in her quest for more of something, but also allowing me to build a life where my business and personal life sort of intersected. I was able to, for a good part, be at home with my children, working from our home studio. Not everybody's idea of what they would want to do, but it is finding that unique answer to our needs, that I think gets us to that point.
That's so beautiful. And your daughter now, I mean, so it's been a few years now since 2002. Does she look back on that time, and does she have any thoughts as to how you really opened up the creative expressions for her, and how is she using it in her life? I would just love to know, because it's kind of easy in those moments to say, sure, I'll let's do this. Let's sit around the table and let's grab some paintbrushes and let's just have fun, right? But it's easy. And then we can look back and we can say, well, perhaps this led to something else that she's pursued. And maybe it has supported her in other ways that maybe weren't necessarily painting related, but now have allowed her to, fully express her passions.
Well, that's so interesting you asked that because I think what both of my children saw in me was uh, the entrepreneurial spirit, and I think the younger one for sure has that. In She is working for a marketing company. She is expressing her creative side, her communication style, and she's also an artist on the side, a fine artist on the side. We recently had a show together, and it
Wow.
was really wonderful to see her get back into it. Um, I think the really interesting part about our journey with the art school has been the backdrop of my first marriage falling apart in 2006, and my need to really turn up the volume on the art school and let the universe come in and respond to what I was doing, not keep the lid on it, as we sometimes can do with our pursuits when we're busy with a young family. And that is really when the art school started to take off. And I found myself in a unique position of being able to support my family emotionally and financially as a result of that passion. And I'm super grateful for that. And I think, Andryanna, that for my young people growing up was a great example of what we can do when we need to do it. And
Mhm.
the juggle was real, as you can well imagine.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how you bring that in because oftentimes, through painful or challenging experiences, that's where we see the phrase of, where there's cracks, that's where the light can come through. And it feels to me that you were really able to heal through these passions and pursuits. And you say creativity is a tipping point in life, and using that tipping point is for the listener, if you're not familiar, um that point at which a series of small changes or those incidents becomes large enough, significant enough to cause more important change. So you said your children sort of sparked that interest in starting a business because there was a lack of resources or programming in your community, then led to your marriage falling apart as you've described it, which then perhaps was that tipping point to use the creativity not only to heal yourself but then to support others. Is that true? Can you explain that more, and maybe share with the listener how they can use creativity as a tipping point in their own lives?
Oh, I love that so much. And it's absolutely 100% true. And listen, our struggle and the juggle does not end with one unique experience that we overcome or time helps to heal. It's a constant element, right? Life is full of so many challenges, so many um, obstacles, and so the studio became kind of a lab for my life, where I would experiment with new ideas, help solve my own problems, and I'd like to say the problems of others. And that's an ongoing thing, truly. So it's a place that is full of hope and joy and um, escape, both an escape from life and a place where we go to find solutions for life. So it is
Mhm.
all those things, and continues to be, because my challenges didn't end with one particular event, as I'm sure you can well relate. So I would say, so to answer your question, how does how can we all use creativity? I would say let's take the idea that uh, creativity is a place where we gain perspective, number one. Um, So perspective allows us to move away from a problem. Just like with a painting, we step away and we take a better look at it from a distance, or maybe we leave it for a short period of time. So we leave our problems, right? Rather than the navel gazing, the focus on something that is
Mhm.
challenging, we leave it. And when we return to it, so in effect, when we return from the studio to our regular life, there's a refresh, there's a reboot, there's a chance for us to look at things differently. And so I love, Andryanna, those art words that are also life words. And I mean, there's such a long list of them. There's layers, right? We always point out in our paintings that there are many layers to a beautiful painting, just like there are many layers to a beautiful life. Sure, we want a simple life, but in reality, the depth of character is gained through both the profound, the pain and the profound joy that we have as a result of experiencing pain, right? It's that juxtaposition of the two. And very
Mhm.
similarly, in a painting, we have both dark and light. And we often talk about that in studio. The shadow and the light that is both in a beautiful painting and in a beautiful light. And so we have so many opportunities to have those teachable moments in studio and in life. And I love that. It's so rich and so meaningful and so tangible for both the young and the young at heart.
Wow, this is touching me so much, Nancy. And it's making me think, how you describe, because I myself am not a fine artist. I really enjoy tapping into my creative side through other pursuits, which I'm sure, many of us have those different sparks within us. But how you're describing the layers and the contrast, it's said that a lit candle on a sunny day really means nothing. It doesn't help anyone. And it's not until you bring that candle into darkness that it can truly shine and light the way for someone. Right. And so we see through our own lives the contrast of pain or sorrow or fear really helps us to understand the love and the happiness and the joy. And I am a subscriber to your mailing list, which is so beautiful. And you wrote in one of your recent letters, and I'll include a link in this episode for the listener who wants to join your mailing list. But you wrote, "It is said that happiness in our adult lives comes from the ability to keep who we were and what we love to do at 10 front and center in our daily lives." This sort of reminds me of um, the book written by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, where he talks about these different zones and the ultimate being your zone of genius, where you can lead your creative pursuits more and more, hopefully to fully expand into your creativity every single day. So for the listener who is like, this sounds beautiful, but I can't just, I can't change my life to be in a studio all day, or I can't maybe that, follow that creative side 100% because I've got bills, I've got the kids' schedules, I've got this and that, and maybe we're afraid. How would you say that we can find and reconnect with our 10-year-old self to bring in more happiness, to even remember what we love to do at 10, and how can we kind of bring that forward to tap into it a little bit in our daily lives? How can we find and reconnect to that 10-year-old self?
I love that you brought up that one because it was truly shocking to me when I heard this on CBC actually many years ago, that exact theory. And I thought to myself, all the things that I loved at 10 are alive and well in my business and therefore in my many waking hours. So how do we find this for ourselves? If we struggle with memory, we can ask our siblings, our best friend at 10, who hopefully we still have in some way in our present lives. our parents, if we're lucky enough that they're still with us. We can ask others. We can look at some old photos of our 10-year-old self, and that will tell us a little bit about the hobbies we had, the kind of thought processes we were involved in, our personalities, the way we filled our days, the way we filled our spare time. Connect with that, and write a letter to her, or have her write a letter to you, he or she. In other words, try to gain some insight into the frame of mind of that time. I mean, I can think of it. I can really. Can you remember yourself at 10,
Well,
Andryanna?
as you're saying this now, I'm kind of going through this process. I'm trying to remember, and I'm trying to think what grade was I in, and who were my friends, and what was I doing. And a lot that's coming up for me is dance, because I did a lot of dance, ballet, and all sorts of different types of dance, and that really did spark a lot of joy through the music and through the movement. So I can connect with that. I can see how that can maybe reemerge in my life right now. Yeah.
Are you dancing now? That's the $1 million question.
I'm not, except for, maybe on
Kitchen
a rare,
dances?
a rare weekend, or, if, my children are, just during breakfast, we are dancing to a song just for fun. But yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
not in any organized way.
Do you feel any yearning towards dance right now?
Well, I think that spark reemerges when it is, you can just kind of let go and let the music take over, and just forget about everything else that's happening, and just really emerge and just allow it to wash over you. um and now that we're having this conversation, I think I might have to explore it some more, yeah, even in small ways, Nancy. Yeah, so this is how we do it. We're
This
going to
is
write a
how we do
letter.
it.
I'm going to write a letter as if we are our 10-year-old self, or as if our 10-year-old self is writing a letter to us. And
I love
any
that.
sort of prompts that you can provide, how we can, you know, as a type A overachiever, recovering people pleaser, I know myself is like, well, what is the sentence I need to start with, or how do I begin, or what is the framework? And and yes, it can come fluid and flow, but would you say there's a prompt or something that you can help the listener who may be like me and might need a little more structure to get to that creative place?
Well, maybe you had a nickname at that time. I'm a lover of nicknames, and my dad gave us, and anybody in, within a 5 mile radius, a nickname. And I think if you had a nickname at that time, long forgotten, that will bring it up. If you maybe you sketch a little picture, you beside your dog, if you had a dog at that time, or uh, start to do the activity that is long forgotten that you did so much at 10. Maybe go for a skate, go for a roller skate, do some dancing on your own, or go to that class. But address yourself as the name that you had at that time. Um, if you did have a nickname, and I think most of us did, whether it's our sibling who couldn't pronounce our name properly because they were the baby, when we came home from the hospital, or something like that. And just really maybe look at those pictures from that time, and think about really who we were, and how I mean, I I like to say, for women especially, I think we were especially free at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, maybe it was pre-puberty. I hope, because childhood's over way too soon. And we were free, and try to embrace that mentality again. The drop the self-consciousness, drop the inhibitions, drop the fear of failure, drop the need to please, all those things that are alive and well in so many of us, and get playful. I like to say that our time in the studio is both playful and profound, because playful feels simple. It doesn't seem as deep.
Mhm.
Profound is deep, and it's both of those things.
And I think just being open, having that sense of curiosity to see just whatever comes up, and I'm going to allow it. And even if there's nothing that's, truly profound that, resurrects in that moment, you're just open to remembering or having a memory or, revisiting it, to be able to reconnect and then hopefully explore a little bit more. I'd like to talk a little bit about our creativity as it relates to entrepreneurship or our careers and business, and how we can create a joyful business, or how we can create more joy in our careers. Is it through allowing that, what I would call self-care, to nurture yourself, to tap into your creative spirit, to give yourself space for that time, even in small ways? Or is it to inject it in whatever those professional pursuits are? Is it a sort of a little bit of both? How would you suggest to the listener that they can just introduce or reintroduce or find a little bit more joy and creativity in their professional lives?
I
Something that
think
I
it,
think we take a little too seriously sometimes,
I
right?
think you're so right. I think that maybe putting it through that filter of what really sparks joy. You remember that whole movement where we would hold up the shirt or an
Yeah.
item that we had and really ask that question. So have a really nice tight filter on your activities, on your pursuits, and which of course feels very indulgent in a busy life. But really, if we're going to build a business around our interest and our maybe avoid, as we said, in the marketplace for something that we are actually looking for ourselves, um, to speak to the joy and the interest that we actually have. Because if we put it through that filter, I think we will be, well, jumping out of bed most days to do it because we're interested in it. It's nudging up against or right in the middle of our zone of genius, right? If we're interested in it and we love it, it's probably something we're good at. And if all of those things are in place, we're not going to avoid it. We kind of avoid the things we don't like to do. So keep in mind that if we're going to honor our most authentic self, we need to focus on our interest, something we're interested in, something we love to talk about. I was so excited to come into your podcast space today because number one, I felt an instant connection with you on a call we were both on a while back. I loved your energy. I loved the empathy that was in your voice. And I wanted to share with you what I do because I truly love it. And I truly think it makes a difference in the world, in my corner. And I think if we can really focus on that, what is the thing I would like to bring to the world? What did Mary Oliver say? You know, what is that? What are you going to do with that one wild and precious life?
Mhm.
And I think if we can think about that and kind of move away the clutter, remember we can do hard things. That's a simple and pervasive message that's alive both in my studio and in my life. No matter what age or stage we're at, it's not too late. Let's go.
Let's go. And I'm so glad, Nancy, that you reached out because, I'm so happy to be in your world now and that we've connected, and to just learn more how you're supporting people before I want to start, I want to talk a little bit about how we can support our children in this and really engage their creative side from a young age. But before we move and shift to that direction, one last question that I think could really help the listener if I'm thinking of myself again and how questions that I might have. The big one that really jumps out at me is the notion of time. Because again, there's a lot on our plates and our lives are full, and sometimes we don't think we have the time in our days, in our lives, to be able to feed our creative side. Do you have any suggestions for how we can live more artfully, how we can feed our creative side, or just begin this process that I'm sure will eventually, continue and expand? But how can we begin this process and carve out even small pockets so that we can live more artfully and feed our creative side to elevate our moods, to help with our own problems, to, really feed into our own self-love and our own worth? What do you suggest that we do to start?
Well, it's so interesting because I'm doing a lot of coaching work now and mentorship work. And the 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 topic this week was time. And we proposed time because exactly that. We narrate our lives as not having enough time. And when we really come down to it, it's probably the way we manage it. And that's a work in progress, let's face it, for all of us. So, in terms of managing time, I would say that's a whole lesson in itself, and I can expand on that if you wish. But and we came up with some great time hacks. Many of them I think you've heard of. It's just employing them that's the big magic, right? The big thing our big work.
Sure.
I would say if we can, once we get the, start employing the time hacks and really um, block out time and manage it as though someone's watching. Do you know what I'm saying? Manage it as though you are employed in your 24-hour day, and block it out as though somebody's watching, and as though your boss is watching and they're expecting of you. And then of course give yourself some room for you know unproductive time. Super important to have what we call unproductive time, and block it out and fill in some moments of creative space. I am quite sure you're a big fan of journaling, and many of your listeners. Early morning, get up earlier, get up an hour earlier if you can. If you're already getting up early, give yourself a pat on the back. That has made a huge difference in my life. Quiet journaling. I also really love to have an anthem at different points in my life that puts me into a zone of creativity and wide open thinking. It's sort of a prompt, as you say. It's a way to kick me into that creative space. And I start my morning that way. I play the anthem, and those anthems change in my life at different times. Um,
Nancy, is it just a song
it's a
specifically that it's a
song. It's a
song? Okay.
song. It's a
Okay.
song. Yeah. And think about creativity in a wide open, uh, expansive way. What do you want to do that is under the umbrella of creativity? So for you, it might be dance, it might be sketching, it might be gardening. Get your hands dirty, make a mess somewhere. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's writing, maybe it is creating books about your trips, anything, taking pictures, organizing playlists, tapping into your musical interest. Once you start to do a little bit of that, it makes you hungry for more. And a busy person is going to be able to manage more and fit more in. And a happy person, well, that is the beginning of everything. If you can include things that make you happy, you will have more time and you will be more productive. All the great things will come.
I agree. I agree. And even I like to say, that when we are feeling stagnant or that we are feeling like we're, just burnt out and it feels difficult, that's when we need to pause, right? And it might be to rest, it might be to take some breaths, it might be to literally go lay down, but it might be to put on that music, or it might be to shift gears and go for a walk or just get some fresh air, or maybe grab a sketchbook like you've suggested, or do some journaling or just some note taking and change direction. And what I have found, and what I believe studies show, is that we are then more efficient, more productive when we come back. And sort of like you said, through fine art, when you leave something, when you take a pause and you come back to it, you see it from a new perspective, or you look at it from a different angle. What seemed challenging or what seemed really difficult, now you're seeing it in a new lens, and perhaps there's still challenges, but you are looking at it from a different perspective, and it can be so supportive. So I thank you, Nancy, for bringing this to the forefront, for allowing us to think about it in these ways of, how can I reconnect to my 10-year-old self? How can I bring in more joy and more love for myself by doing the things that really feed my creativity? And so I want to talk about how you started, and you're supporting adults, but you're helping children, and the art studio for children is a space, a safe place where kids can come to tap into that. How can we as parents, or as educators, or as aunts, uncles, etc., how can we support our children? And tell us, where you're located, because I'm not quite sure. If we're not in the same community, how can we do this in a way that's going to help our children, allow them to know that it is safe and it is welcome, and it is really important that they too stay playful, stay curious, and do those things that are supporting their creativity?
Oh, I just love that so much. I heard something recently about uh, how as parents we should be gardeners, not carpenters. So
Ah,
I think this might be interesting to you and your listeners. And this is the concept is basically that instead of kind of building our children with the tools that we have, um, rather having a garden that's a little wild, a little overgrown, a little unruly. I mean, obviously, we all like order, and I think that produces inner calm. I'm a big fan of order, but there has to be a little bit of mess on the side. There has to be a little bit of room for experimentation, for bloom, for growth, whether it's wild and woolly or uh, just unexpected, right? I mean, you talked about this recently on your podcast. The juggle is really, I think, sure, it's the volume of all the things in life, but it's also when life shows us something unexpected and something we didn't plan for. We thought our children were this, and then they flip roles, or they are something we didn't see coming. And that is where the garden, not the gardener, not the carpenter, excels. They become, we're helping to nurture, feed, give light, give shade, nurture. I said that already. Let's say it again. The unique beauty that is in that particular individual. And I really liked that. I just heard that this week, and I thought that was just so beautiful because we're always trying to fit our children into the mold that we think makes sense, that fits with what we saw coming, doesn't work that way. And that really, I mean, I'm still learning about parenting, even though I'm parenting adults, or unparenting, shall we say. It's a lifelong journey, and it's taught me so much. And in some ways, I'm an extension of parenting other people's children. I become part of their family, part of their village, and they become part of mine. And I really love that. And so I'm always learning by the example of other families and the way they do things, and I bring it into my own family. I have a blended family now. I'm so lucky that way. I've repartnered, and we have 5 children together. So lots of new learning every minute. You've asked me where we're located, and we are located in Midtown Toronto. I have a studio here, and I also have a studio at our farm location, 2 hours north of Toronto. And I work on large canvas experiences there with all ages, as well as we have a day camp in the area. So I think, and before we leave this idea of how to encourage creativity, no matter where you are or who you are, all the things we want to teach our children and pass on to our children is best communicated through example. And
Mm.
I haven't always done that well, and I don't always do that well, for sure. I'm always learning and trying to evolve. But I think the best example of this is our own example, because we are the big giant example in our young people's lives. So if we can say, uh, I did this thing, or I'm working on this thing, or I made a mistake, but I'm learning from it. I'm grabbing that baton. I'm grabbing the right handle, as the Stoics say, from a lesson. I'm not beating myself up. I'm making beauty out of all this mess. And that's it's one of our themes, one of our values in the studio and in life is messy. A lot of things come our way, and a lot of things we we mess up, shall we say. But how do we find the beauty in that? That's where the magic lies. That's where the creativity is.
What a beautiful analogy, Nancy. First of all, using the gardener versus the carpenter, and not trying to fit our children into certain molds. I love that, we can plant the seeds, right? We can offer, we can say, how about music lessons, or what about this, or we can plant those seeds, understanding that, as we nurture, as we provide that love and that guidance when required, that the seeds will grow, but how they bloom really is dependent on our children, right? And how they choose to bloom. And I love that you've painted it in this way for us, definitely pun intended, because it really goes to show that you really cannot force them to do any one thing. But as you provide that love and that support and that allowing, even when it looks messy, even when it might look like it needs pruning, even though it might look like a weed, it might bloom to be such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And your talents and your skills have evolved through coaching, through mentorship. But I also know that you have a few events coming up for anyone who is in that sort of Ontario, Toronto area. You have something coming up for children and something coming up for adults. One involves wine, one doesn't. Can you share a little bit about both of these experiences, that if the listener is close enough, that they might want to enjoy?
Thank you so very much. Let's start with the adult retreat. So we've been running retreats for a few years. We did take off some pandemic years. Um, we have a 2-day Heartworks retreat um, happening at the farm location, and that is end of July. we thought that would be a really good time for people who are, we have our expectations, like the postcard picture of how summer's supposed to look. And we know we can get halfway through it and none of the things came together the way we expected, or we need a reboot, we need a refresh, we need a chance to make some beauty out of all that mess. And so it's a break for adults. And I can share the link with you if you like for your subscribers. And that one will have wine and it will have a full range of experiences. Really, Andryanna, the interesting thing is that after so many years of running my art camp for children, every single time a parent would pick up or come to the gallery walk, which is on the final day, they would say, when are you going to do this for us? What about us? Why do the kids get to have all the fun, all the creativity? And, you know, I've been talking about that today, right? Returning to our 10-year-old selves. So the retreat is made in that vision with those values embedded. So we're going to spend all day outside and we're going to do yoga, hike, swim. We're going to work on our mindset. We're going to meditate. We are going to return to the best of ourselves while experiencing, I'm sure, a range of emotions as we do when we remove ourselves from our regular lives. Joy, love, heartbreak, anguish, anger, disgust, anxiety, they all come up. They come up on the canvas and they come up when we break away. So that's our Heartworks retreat. And then for the young, well, we're all young at heart, right? But
Younger.
the
Yeah.
younger, the littles, we have our art camp. I think we're in our 21st year, and it is a day camp north from 9 to 4, Monday to Friday. So you book a week. We have a lot of weeks available. They are filling up. And it is a unique proposition where we take a lot of our children are being raised very, you know, very citified and also very regimented in terms of the programming. And it has that playful and profound approach to skilling up, uh, kind of without knowing it. Lots of life skills embedded also in the children's event, um, whether it's from the artful side or just that attitude of agency and gratitude that we bring to the studio, whether it's north or here, midtown. Um, the, uh, the artists learn to move through the studio and the camp experience with full agency. um, it becomes theirs. They help set up, tidy up, they teach, and they learn. So if somebody's nailing something, I'll partner them up with somebody who is struggling with something, and that brings that sense of agency. They move through the studio as though it's theirs, and I think that is brilliant. And in terms of gratitude, which is available to all of us, as we both know, gratitude is found to lead to happiness, not the other way around. So we always, whether I'm working with adults or children, we do what's called our 8 great, which is we either pick a theme or a letter of the alphabet, and then we brainstorm on things that start with that letter that we're grateful for. And or if it's a theme, it might be a season or something to do with the eclipse or a moment in time that we are grateful for and why we're grateful for that. And it's just a reminder, and it's dead simple. So your listeners could do that. I mean, that's a creative prompt, right? You can do that at the dinner table. Let's do our 8 great. And that is a creative approach, actually, that we can bring home. So I hope that my long-winded answers, but I hope that helps to paint the picture.
They both sound amazing. And even if we're not able to join in person, if we're not, in the vicinity, the I'm using the word structure, but sometimes it's like the lack of structure or just the idea and the intention behind what you've created is so beautiful. And, whether we are immersing ourselves with a 2-day experience, which I think can be so, so incredibly helpful, or we're choosing small pockets during our days and during our weeks, or even just a few moments on a weekend to really allow ourselves that flexibility to be able to wonder and just let our minds wander and allow ourselves that freedom. I think that's really, really what it's all about, which will certainly expand and not only help us find that joy and that happiness, but truly expand to support those we love, the people in our family, the people who we might not even know that we're touching. And I think that's really what this world really needs, right?
I
Uh,
think so too.
so I thank you so much, Nancy, for being here, for doing what you do, and I hope that we can keep in touch and connect again soon.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a beautiful joy. Thank you.
Wasn't that such a beautiful and fun conversation? I got so much out of talking to Nancy, and I'm not lying. I think after I hit end on this recording, I'm going to put on some songs. I'm going to do a little dance in my kitchen, in my house, wherever I am. I'm just going to stop and just move and listen to some fun songs and just tap into my creativity. Now, Nancy likes to say that there is beauty out of this mess that we call life. There is mess in our homes, there's mess in our business, in our professional lives, but there is so much beauty as well. So I hope that you got so much from this. I hope that you will take even small gestures to live more artfully, to use creativity as a tipping point for more love and more joy and more happiness in your life. And if you are in the Ontario area or you wish to travel, I have included links in the notes for this podcast episode so you can learn more about Nancy's retreats for children, for adults, and how you can connect and follow along with the art studio, not just for children. Thank you so much for being here. If you love this episode, I invite you to share it with a friend, someone who could gain something and live more artfully as well. And if you could like this episode, follow, subscribe, write me a short review on Apple Podcasts, do all the things so that other people can get this beautiful information as well. I would be so, so grateful. I can't wait to see you here for the next episode of The Juggle is Real. And until then, take good care.